So we'll get on to the actual ceremony part of today. And today, again, we're going to honor Scott Craven, Don L. Johnson, and Eileen Schmidt. And we do this alphabetically, so we're going to start with Scott Craven. And Scott was nominated by Scott Hinkstrom, by David Drake, and Jamie Knack. And when Scott and Jamie and David put together their nomination papers, on his plaque that he's going to get, they had a wonderful quote. And I'm going to read that quote for each of our nominees. So for Scott Craven, what Jamie and Scott and David said was, Scott Craven is an ambassador for Wisconsin's wildlife, with a gift for sharing his knowledge and enthusiasm for Wisconsin's natural resources. Scott's legacy is in the number of people he has introduced to the wonderful world of wildlife. With his historical knowledge, nearly 4 decades of experience, a well-developed network of colleagues, Scott is a quintessential wildlife figure in Wisconsin. I don't think I can add a whole lot more than that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn it over to some other presenters. We're going to have Jamie Knack, Dick McCabe, and Meredith Gabler are going to add some more to that and do a much better job than I'm going to do with it. So I think it's time if we can get the next presentation up, and Jamie Knack will start off. While she's coming up and we're getting the things shifted around on the computer, when this is over, we're going to have about a half an hour before dinner actually gets served. And so for the families, for the nominators, the speakers, we're going to spend a little time taking group pictures with the plaques. So just stick around and be prepared to be cornered by our wonderful photographers. Jamie.
Thank you very much. I'll just hold it. Can you hear me okay in the back?
Yes.
Okay, excellent. Good afternoon, and thank you for the opportunity to present today at this joyous event honoring individuals who have contributed to the environmental legacy of the state. I would like to thank Michael John Yeager, Joe Passanoff, members of the Wisconsin Conservation Hall of Fame Board, as well as the Board of Governors for their dedication to ensuring Wisconsin's conservation heroes are recognized and honored, and their legacy and contributions preserved. In addition, I would like to acknowledge David Drake and Scott Hinkstrom, my co-nominators, as well as Richard McCabe, Tom Hoggy, Larry Mueller, and Stan Temple, who wrote wonderful letters of support to complete Scott's nomination packet. I've had the pleasure of working with Scott since 2002, and for the next few minutes, I plan to highlight some of Scott's many contributions and accomplishments over the past 40 years. Born in Manchester, New Hampshire, Scott received his bachelor's degree in zoology at the University of New Hampshire in 1970. After teaching high school biology for 2 years, Scott came to the University of Wisconsin-Madison to pursue a master's degree in wildlife ecology with Dr. Donald Ruch, the unit leader of the Wisconsin Cooperative Wildlife Research Unit. Scott's research was on the history and ecology of Canada geese wintering near Rock Prairie, Wisconsin. His findings provided definitive information on the birds using the Rock Prairie area of Rock County, leading to the establishment of a special harvest zone to prevent any overharvest of this unique cohort of birds. After completing his master's degree in 1975, Scott went directly into a PhD program with Don, studying the distribution and migration of Canada geese associated with Horicon Marsh. During his PhD research, Scott captured and secured neck collars on more than 1,000 Canada geese at Horicon. His research added to our understanding of migratory patterns of Canada geese using the marsh and provided critical information on survival rates of neck-collared geese. After completing his doctorate in 1978, Scott worked as a wildlife biologist with the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, stationed in Madison, for 6 months, prior to being hired on January 1st, 1979, as an assistant professor and extension wildlife specialist in the Department of Wildlife Ecology. Wisconsin Conservation Hall of Fame inductee Dr. Robert Ellerson had retired in 1978 after a distinguished career as the nation's first wildlife extension specialist. Scott applied for Ellerson's position, and as they say, the rest is history. Scott served as the University of Wisconsin Extension Wildlife Specialist and professor in the Department of Forest and Wildlife Ecology for 32 years. His three-way split appointment included extension, research, and teaching responsibilities. The percentages varied over the years as administrative time was added when he served as the department chair from 2000 until 2007, following in the footsteps of other department chairs in the Hall of Fame, Aldo Leopold, Joe Hickey, and Robert McCabe. As a co-chair alongside Dr. Ray Gurries, Scott and Ray orchestrated the merger of the Wildlife and Forestry departments into the present-day Department of Forest and Wildlife Ecology in 2008. Serving on more than 100 committees over the years, Scott's service to the department, college, and university have been exemplary. Through Scott's extension work, he has had and continues to have a tremendous impact on the citizenry of Wisconsin. When Scott was hired, he inherited some extension responsibilities from Dr. Robert Ellerson, and other program areas were determined by needs within the state and by splitting programs with his longtime specialist colleague, Dr. Robert Ruff. Scott's extension programs generally emphasized wildlife damage or nuisance control, woodland and urban wildlife management, wildlife appreciation and awareness, and wildlife-related recreation. His audience ranged from youth to adult learners, landowners, professional groups, and the general public. He provided representation on countless committees, consultation by telephone, email, or in person, and support to county extension agents with unique or challenging questions from clients. Scott successfully utilized a variety of tools to reach Wisconsin citizens and further the Wisconsin idea, including an extensive set of UW Extension bulletins ranging from fact sheets to 50-page handbooks, hundreds of public lectures, workshops, displays at large events like Farm Technology Days, and mass media. Scott's extension programs have exemplified the ideal of the UW Extension system in terms of providing national leadership, obtaining maximum impact and outreach, integrating the mission of a land-grant university by providing research-based extension and teaching, and by furthering the Wisconsin idea. The following are examples of 4 program areas Scott has had a significant impact on. If you ask Scott, he will quickly tell you that public radio has had and still has the most impact on his ability to reach Wisconsin residents. For more than 25 years, Scott has been one of the most popular guests on public radio. He has worked with several hosts, but primarily Larry Mueller, and together they have conducted well over 200 90-minute live call-in shows about Wisconsin's wildlife. The radio program is extremely popular with the listeners as Scott fields an unbelievable variety of questions about wildlife and nature. One minute he's asked to identify a bird song by a word description. The next minute he's telling a distraught listener how to rid her garden of woodchucks. And the next minute he's telling another listener about the latest research on chronic wasting disease. In any given show, he's likely to tackle some 30 different topics, and he's able to answer them with good humor and wisdom. He also makes a concerted effort to incorporate timely and coordinated messages on pressing conservation issues when he's on the air. These monthly radio programs reach over 100,000 listeners and continue today. To realize the impact Scott has had, all you need to do is spend a day with him at a public event. If I only had $1 for every time I heard somebody say, "You're Scott Craven," I listened to you on the radio. When Scott began his career, animal damage control, now referred to as wildlife damage management, was not a key program in extension. That quickly changed and continues today with an increase in human-wildlife interactions. These interactions lead to concerns about damage or nuisance and are likely the #1 area of wildlife extension work across the country. Scott very much enjoys helping people solve wildlife problems, whether it be a skunk under the deck, moles in the lawn, or bats in the attic. His sustained work in this area of wildlife damage management provided a very positive relationship with his clients and built support for his programs. As the animal damage program evolved, Scott found himself in a leadership role in Wisconsin and later in the United States. At the peak of his career, he was handling 1,500 to 2,000 requests for assistance each year. He authored or co-authored several dozen fact sheets and bulletins on the most common species at the heart of human-wildlife conflict. In 1980, Scott was appointed to the Wisconsin Legislative Study Committee on Wildlife Damage, which ultimately led to the creation of the Wisconsin Wildlife Damage Abatement and Claims Program. A program Scott ran with graduate students for 3 years before the Wisconsin Department of Natural Resources added staff to run it. The program continues today, providing abatement assistance and reimbursement to Wisconsin farmers for damage caused by white-tailed deer, elk, black bear, Canada geese, and wild turkeys. Youth education has always been an important component of Scott's extension programming. He has served on numerous 4-H state committees and promoted wildlife and natural resource conservation through 4-H project materials, leader training, and programs. He has served on the Upland Woods Advisory Committee and various subcommittees for 30 years and has been a trusted advisor to many camp directors. During his travels throughout the state to teach leader training sessions and 4-H workshops, he developed relationships with local county 4-H agents. His knowledge of county 4-H programs enabled him to identify counties for successful launching of new program ideas. In 1983, he led a team that brought 4-H shooting sports to Wisconsin and administered the shooting sports project, including leader training and state competitions. Because of this program's increasing size and popularity, it became the responsibility of the Department of Youth Development. Shooting sports is one of the largest programs in Wisconsin 4-H, reaching over 5,000 youth each year. In recognition of his dedication to sharing his knowledge of wildlife ecology and the broader area of natural resources, Scott was inducted into the Wisconsin 4-H Hall of Fame in 2017. Beyond 4-H, Scott started the Future Farmers of America State Wildlife Contest, taught week-long sessions of College for Kids each summer, and presented wildlife programs at local schools and for Boy and Girl Scout troops. Scott has left a lasting mark on Wisconsin's landscape with his ongoing work with private landowners to improve wildlife habitat on private lands. Perhaps the most well-known work in this area is the Wisconsin Coverts Project. Scott was instrumental in starting the program in 1994, and he has played a critical role in each of the 29 workshops and 3 reunions. To date, 737 landowners representing 622 properties have attended the 3-day workshop. Participants collectively own or are responsible for managing more than 525,000 acres in Wisconsin and the Midwest. At the completion of the workshop, attendees become Coverts cooperators, agreeing to develop a written management plan to share their newfound knowledge and resources with other landowners in their communities. And through this peer-to-peer network, Coverts cooperators have reached out to more than 14,000 additional landowners in Wisconsin and neighboring states. In addition to helping organize the 3-day workshop, Scott provides classroom presentations, leads informal fireside discussions, and meticulously plans and cooks every meal that is served. Scott has a real gift for being able to relate to people and to present technical information in an easy-to-comprehend manner, often with humor. Workshops evaluations from Coverts frequently contain the comments from participants like, "I could listen to Scott Craven talk all day." But my favorite comment to date was from a recent 1-year follow-up evaluation of attendees asking how their management and outreach activities were going. Her enthusiastic response was, "My status among my friends has been elevated because Scott Craven served me pancakes." Scott has been teaching future natural resource professionals in the formal classroom and through hands-on field courses since 1970. During his time in the department, he taught mammalogy, terrestrial vertebrates, an introductory department and career orientation course, and also taught wildlife management on the farm as part of the UW Farm and Industry Short Course Program. Scott's passion for natural history was clear as he served as a longtime curator of the department's museum, now named the S.R. Craven Wildlife Teaching Collection in his honor. In 1999, while serving as interim superintendent of Kemp Natural Resources Station in Woodruff, Scott laid the groundwork for a new 2-week summer field course at Kemp Station for wildlife ecology majors. The 2-credit intensive field course continues today and provides critical hands-on experience to undergrads. In addition to providing lectures and sharing his local knowledge of Kemp Station, Scott prepares all of the meals, often for 30-plus people, for the entire 2-week course. In addition to the extension and teaching appointments, Scott was able to secure funding for and advise 1 to 2 graduate students per year through most of his career. Graduate projects always dealt with applied problems that fit nicely into his extension programs, especially wildlife damage. Scott was the principal investigator for 9 master's and PhD students and served on the graduate committees of another 25 to 30 graduate candidates in wildlife ecology and also other departments in the college. Scott has always enjoyed his many interactions with students and opportunities to mentor future and existing natural resource professionals. Over the years, he has helped with career and major fairs on campus and met with families of prospective students. In 1966, Scott formed the UW-Madison student chapter of the Wildlife Society and served as the chapter's advisor until 2010. Under his guidance, the student chapter held an annual game dinner fundraiser, brought in guest speakers, participated in the National Wildlife Society Quiz Bowl competition, and attended field trips to observe natural history events or experience management activities like prairie burns. In addition to mentoring students, he has been a valued mentor to many natural resource professionals in the state, as well as extension wildlife specialists around the country. He always makes time to share his wealth of experience and to provide advice to those getting started in their careers. Scott has received countless awards in every area of his work, from teaching and mentoring to his programs and partnerships that laid the foundation for his outstanding extension work. Many of these awards are the highest honor bestowed by the organization. So, after a distinguished career, Scott officially retired in 2011, leaving his family, friends, and colleagues to wonder, what would Craven do? Would he spend his days relaxing, fishing, or would he simply ride off into the sunset, never to be heard from again? Fortunately for all of us, he would choose to continue to be a leader in wildlife conservation in Wisconsin and beyond. While Scott is officially retired, you wouldn't know it. 2019 marks his 40th year of being an ambassador for Wisconsin's wildlife resource. In his retirement, Scott continues to be a regular guest on public radio, play a critical role in the Wisconsin Coverts Project and the Wildlife Ecology Summer Field Course, and guest lecture for a number of courses on campus. He has co-authored the wildlife chapter for the Wisconsin Master Naturalist Program, served on the Northwoods Land Trust Board of Directors, the Natural Resources Foundation of Wisconsin Board, the Wisconsin DNR County Deer Advisory Council for Dane County, and is the president of the Cochrane Lake Management District, where his family has a cabin. He also enjoys organizing and leading tours for the Natural Resources Foundation of Wisconsin, their annual field trips, and has co-led field trips for the foundation and Door County tours to the Florida Everglades, Isle Royale, and Yellowstone National Park. Through his extension work, formal teaching, applied research, and mentoring, Scott has had a tremendous impact. He has helped to educate the public on how to attract wildlife and how to thoughtfully deal with nuisance wildlife. He has brought awareness to natural resource issues and celebrated Wisconsin's wildlife with listeners on Wisconsin Public Radio. And he has impacted the lives of countless students and professionals. Scott, congratulations on this much-deserved award. Thank you for your sustained commitment to the profession, the resource, and the citizens of Wisconsin, all whom have benefited greatly from your contributions. I hope you will take some time to celebrate this accomplishment with your family and friends. But then you need to rest up, because our 2-week summer field course starts in 1 month. And there will be students to teach, mouths to feed, and crappies to catch. Scott, thank you for being an amazing mentor, colleague, and friend.
Good afternoon. My name is Dick McCabe, and is this on? No, I gotta talk into this. My name is Dick McCabe, and I and my truck skated in here from Kansas last night. And before things settled down, I turned on the television to listen to the news, and the first thing that I saw was that this week is Tornado Awareness Week in Wisconsin. We don't have that in Kansas. We have tornadoes. Anyway, I want to congratulate the Hall of Fame board for selecting its inductees this year. Excellent choices. And I want to thank them for holding this ceremony indoors. Jamie covered a lot of ground in her representation of Scott's role in conservation and education, and she left one out, thankfully. In the middle of the 1990s, Scott and several colleagues formed what was known as the Wisconsin Student Hunter Project, and this involved students who are not familiar with the recreational aspect of hunting and its role in conservation. The course was taught, it was a volunteer course, it was taught on an evening over the course of 6 or 7 weeks, followed by a field day, handling of firearms and other aspects of outdoor activity, followed by a controlled hunt in which the students got to understand the role of hunters. Out of that, in 2004, grew the Conservation Leaders for Tomorrow program, developed by the Wildlife Management Institute and funded by the Max McGraw Wildlife Foundation. Scott's Wisconsin program served as a template in great respect for CLFT, as we call the conservation program. And it involved Scott. He was on the initial advisory committee in 2004, and I believe he's the only member who is still on the board for the advisory committee. And there's a good reason for that. He is grand counsel on all matters concerning the relationship of conservation to students in education. I realize I'm on the clock here, so I do want to mention that Scott has been probably the most effective educator we've had on both programs. The Conservation Leaders Program, one that I know best, has been in about 25 states, involved 35 or 40 universities, and upper class and graduate students who were non-hunters and knew very little about it, who came and were told basically the roles and values of recreational hunting in conservation. The results have been fantastic. More than almost 2,000 persons have gone through the program in these different workshops. The workshops are very intensive, 3 or 4 days in residence, and it's quite a job. There have been, by my rough count, about 90 workshops all around the country. Scott started out as on the advisor committee as an instructor, and he continues in those roles, as well as being an administrator of a number of the workshops every year. He's been fantastic. And that's really what I'd like you to know, is that he has been a wonderful teacher to these students and also to resource professionals in agencies that have not had individuals who know much about hunting. And so it shows us, should push that button. Scott handles every aspect of the program at one time or another, and is a great mentor for these students, many of whom come back to him for information. I think he's been the best that we've had. And I'm going to end quickly here by simply stating or reiterating what Dr. Hingstrom said, and that Scott really is the quintessential figure in wildlife and wildlife conservation in the state of Wisconsin. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Meredith Gabler, and I am honored today to be here to say a few words about someone that I'll forever admire. Sorry. My dad, Scott Craven. I'd like to express my sincere appreciation to the Wisconsin Conservation Hall of Fame for recognizing Scott for his contributions and dedication to the field. I'd also like to thank Jamie Knack, David Drake, and Scott Hingstrom for submitting the letter of nomination, as well as those that submitted letters of support. Growing up, it never failed that someone would always comment after asking my name, saying, "Oh, you're Scott Craven's daughter." And at the time, with a sigh, I'd roll my eyes and say, "Yes, I am." But now today, I can say that I have never been prouder to stand up here and say, yes, I am Scott Craven's daughter. Scott was born on August 12, 1948 to Robert and June Craven. He was an only child, which at times explains a lot. He developed a love for the outdoors early on. He spent his summers in northern Maine where he learned to fish and enjoy the outdoors with his cousins. It was moments like these that helped foster a lifelong love for the outdoors and wildlife. In 1966, Scott graduated from Manchester Central High School and went on to attend the University of New Hampshire, where he majored in zoology. It was during his junior year that he questioned his career path. An elective course in wildlife conservation taught by a faculty member who spoke very highly of the University of Wisconsin will later help shape his career path. Upon graduation, he was offered a position as a high school biology teacher, which he accepted. After teaching high school for a couple of years, he realized that teaching was not what he wanted to continue doing, and he began to reflect upon the wildlife conservation class he had taken as a junior. He visited with the faculty member that taught the course, who encouraged Scott to apply to the University of Wisconsin Graduate School, and was accepted into the Wildlife Ecology Department by Dr. Orrin Ronstadt. In 1972, he and his wife Candy left the East Coast to continue his education in Madison, Wisconsin. He completed his master's degree in 1976 under the mentorship of Dr. Donald Bruch. He then completed his PhD in 1978 and realized he had found his home both professionally at the University of Wisconsin and personally where he would soon begin to raise his family. Scott began his career in the Department of Wildlife Ecology at the University of Wisconsin in January 1979, currently known as the Department of Forest and Wildlife Ecology. He began working as an assistant professor and extension wildlife specialist. Scott was fortunate enough to take over Bob Ellerson's position not only in the department, but as a host of The Wonderful World of Nature, a 15-minute weekly program with a long history dating back to its beginnings in the 1950s, by Wakeland McNeil, also known as Ranger Mac. Scott hosted this show for 14 years and developed a loyal following of listeners in both schools and amongst the public. Scott continues to share his wealth of knowledge today with students of all ages. I'm an elementary school teacher, and my students enjoy having him come in and not only teach them about Wisconsin wildlife, but encourage them to get outside and explore. He also visits his grandchildren's classrooms as well, and this is something they look forward to every year. When Scott was hired at the UW, there were 2 extension wildlife specialists, he and Bob Ruff. Bob Ruff introduced Scott to Larry Mailer and advised him that radio would be a great avenue to get his message out to numerous people. Scott began working with Larry Mailer in the early 1980s, producing 3-minute interviews that aired on over 100 commercial radio stations throughout the state. In 1985, Scott became a regular on Larry's Call-In Talk show on Wisconsin Public Radio. This show airs on the first Wednesday of every month for 90 minutes. For those that know Scott, filling that time is never a problem. He is never at a loss for words. Our family has always enjoyed tuning into the program, and his grandchildren can't wait to hear Papa on the radio and often want to call in until they realize, wait, I can just call him tonight after dinner. Whether he was a graduate student, faculty member, chairman of the department, or currently an emeritus professor, he continues to share his wealth of knowledge with many. It was at the completion of his master's degree that both he and my mom decided to begin a family. In September of 1976, I was born. The family outdoor adventures continued. From early on, my dad exposed me to the outdoors, hunting, fishing, and wildlife identification. As hard as Dad tried to get me involved in hunting, I soon realized that shopping with Mom was a much better option for me. When he realized that I was not going to enjoy the sport of hunting, you can only imagine how excited he was when their son, Jeff, arrived. They have enjoyed countless hours in the field and in the woods, which they continue to do today. Scott also has 4 grandchildren with whom he is always excited to share his love and devotion to wildlife with. His oldest grandson, Blake, is now old enough to join him in the woods, and under my dad's mentorship, was able to shoot his first buck this fall. I'm not sure who was more excited. Growing up, many weeks of our summer were spent at the Kemp Natural Resources Station. It is here where we learned how to fish in the boathouse, water ski, catch salamanders and toads, and enjoy long hikes in the woods. Our family is now fortunate to have our own cabin in northern Wisconsin, and it is here where my dad can sit back and finally relax. I have so many fond memories while spending time here. For example, the look on my son's face when all of a sudden Papa is fully submerged underwater and up he comes with a painted turtle in his hands. Or when we're all out in the boat and he leans over and grabs a duck to show his grandchildren up close. Whether it is fishing, catching frogs, identifying different sounds at night, or sitting around the campfire, these are experiences he is now determined to pass along to another generation. Scott has taught me, as well as many others, so many things over the years. He's taught me hard work and the importance of following your dreams. Many do their job because they have to. He did his job because he's truly passionate about it. This is evident by his 32 years of service to the Department of Forest and Wildlife Ecology, as well as his ongoing service now as he continues to be a guest on Wisconsin Public Radio and participate in extension work. He taught me to work hard without complaining. When you truly love what you do, no complaining is needed. Unless, of course, he has to take yet another fish off my hook because that's something I still can't do today. He taught me how to be a leader and the value of not quitting. Life provides many opportunities to quit, but quitting has never been an option. For those that know him, he continues to want to play a game of cribbage even after losing, and for those that know him, doesn't happen very often. Most importantly, he's taught me the value of family. Even with a busy work schedule, he always found time for Jeff and I, and for that, we thank him. He is always there to lend a hand or provide advice, even when you may not want it. When he was not at work or on the radio, you could often find him coaching my brother's hockey team or cheering me on at a swim meet. He has instilled a love for conservation and wildlife in all of us. Even with Scott's professional commitments, it may surprise you that he finds time outside of work. Some of his favorite things to do are spending time in his garden, cooking, however we're still working on doing the dishes, traveling, spending time in northern Wisconsin, and cheering on his kids at their sporting events. Scott's wide array of outdoor experiences and opportunities have fueled his sense of purpose to promote and preserve Wisconsin's wildlife, lands, and hunting traditions. His hard work, dedication, passion, and work ethic have not gone unnoticed. Scott has been the recipient of countless awards and recognitions. He has served on boards at both the state and national levels. But today, we are so happy that we get to be part of his induction into the Conservation Hall of Fame. On behalf of our family, we are delighted to celebrate this distinguished honor with him today. Thank you all, and I hope you all have a wonderful afternoon.
Meredith and Dick and Jamie, thank you so much for that. This stuff is so inspiring. I just love listening to it, and this is why it's really worth spending time with an organization like this. What I'd like to do right now is, Scott, can you come up here for a little bit? And we have State Representative Katrina Shankland who's going to come up and who's going to read a legislative citation for you. So if you can work your way up here. And,
Thank you so much. Good afternoon, everyone. It is always such a pleasure to be here among so many giants in the field and to honor some incredible people. So I have a citation by the state legislature. Know you by these presents. Whereas every year the Wisconsin Conservation Hall of Fame inducts a select group of individuals into the Hall of Fame to recognize the important contributions each has made to natural resource management in the state. And whereas Scott Craven has been chosen as the 2019 Wisconsin Conservation Hall of Fame inductee for his academic accomplishments and his critical role in educating the Wisconsin public on the topics of conservation, wildlife, and natural resource use. And whereas Scott was born and raised in Manchester, New Hampshire, and moved to Wisconsin in 1972 after receiving his BS in zoology in order to complete his graduate studies in the Department of Wildlife Ecology at the University of Wisconsin-Madison. And whereas Scott remained associated with the University of Wisconsin-Madison for more than 40 years, serving as a professor, department chair, and wildlife and 4-H extension specialist. And whereas Scott produced and contributed to dozens of academic works in his field, helping to establish a significant body of empirical knowledge that became the basis of future environmental policy and research endeavors. And whereas Scott used his position at the university to inspire countless graduate and undergraduate students to pursue meaningful, lifelong careers dedicated to conservation and environmental protection, both in Wisconsin and nationwide. And whereas Scott curated far-reaching extension programs that successfully led to the implementation of land stewardship programs, including the Wisconsin Coverts Project, which promotes wildlife diversity and abundance across 500,000 acres of privately held Wisconsin land. And whereas Scott has utilized a variety of media outlets, including public events, newspapers, television programs, and radio outlets to reach an audience of millions, educating the citizens of Wisconsin and amplifying his message of conservation. And whereas throughout his long career and well into his retirement, Scott has worked tirelessly to facilitate public awareness of wildlife and environmental issues across the state, sharing his vast knowledge and experience in a variety of advisory positions. Now, therefore, the members of the Wisconsin Legislature do hereby commend Scott Craven for his lifelong dedication to conservation in Wisconsin and honor him for his induction into the Wisconsin Conservation Hall of Fame.
Thank you so much. In addition to the plaque from the legislature, you all have seen the wooden plaques up here on the easels. We have a replica of each of the plaques for the families, so I'm also going to give that to Scott. Scott, before you leave, when we put this program together, I thought there was a chance that David Drake was going to be one of the presenters for you, so I built in some time for rebuttal testimony. But he didn't have anything to say, but I do have a little time if you want to add something.
Thank you very much, Michael John. First of all, I've just seen some photographs and memories and so forth that I'd long forgotten about, so I appreciate that very much, particularly from Jamie and Meredith. Public speaking's always made me very nervous, so I'm very happy. The only thing I can accomplish at this point after those comprehensive reviews of a very long time working here in Wisconsin is to maybe provide a little insight into not what happened, but maybe how it happened, and then just thank a few people. The speakers have amply taken care of most of the people I was involved with, but I think the first thing I need to do is make it very clear, and hope that you all understand many of the things that were just described, from the Coverts Project to Conservation Leaders for Tomorrow to a host of other things that I was involved with, were not simply my work. There were many people involved in many of those things, and many of them would not have happened without truly a team effort. And while I may have been involved in starting some of these things, some of them might have had the legs, so to speak, of, say, the Coverts Project. That's entirely the responsibility of Jamie and people who currently run and manipulate and handle those programs. So as I look around the audience, Carl Bathel was one of the people right there at the student hunting program. Carl was the radar O'Reilly of the program. He could procure anything we needed from anybody at any time. And I think of other folks as I look around, if I had a question, my job is really to pass on solid information to people of the state. If I had a deer question, I knew that Keith McCaffrey always knew the answer. If I had a wolf question, I knew that Adrian Whiteman always knew the answer. And there were many, many people like that in the state who allowed me to do what I ended up doing. And made me look good, basically. So that's an important thing to recognize. I feel, catch a few lucky breaks along the way. And I'll just mention a couple of those for the sake of general interest. For one thing, I ended up at the University of Wisconsin, and I ended up with some wonderful people there who guided me along the way. Particularly, well, two from the university, and then the other one, the big three for me, were Dick McCabe's dad, Bob McCabe, who's a member of the Hall of Fame. Bob was an important mentor to me and taught me a lot of what I started to learn about work ethic and dealing with the field and dealing with people and the importance of thinking about the wildlife resource first. He asked me when I was using the machine that we made those neck collars for Canada Geese with, making a plaque for his door, which was a motto I still try and stick with. He was always a big lead, follow, or get the hell out of the way. And he had that on his door for many years. And it stood me in pretty good stead. So Bob was very important. Don Roosh, who we've already learned a little bit about as my mentor, as leader of the co-op unit, was very important. And I have to mention my father. I saw pictures of my dad there that I think there were a couple there I'm not sure I've ever seen. But in any event, he was responsible for my interest in the outdoors in my early years and ultimately for my own personal work ethic. So those people were very important. Beyond them, the lucky breaks I'm referring to, one of them was being introduced to Larry Wheeler. Public radio work that you've heard a lot about proved to be very important and still is. Larry always was a strong proponent of the idea that I had a face for radio. It has stood me in good stead for many years. But that was particularly important. Being able to succeed a legend, essentially, and Bob Ellerson was an extension specialist. It was just a wonderful opportunity. He got me started in a lot of different things that paid off in the long run. Other folks, I think we can leave that issue for now. I had some rather obscure ones in my notes, but I'm throwing those out the window just as an example. You may think this is a little odd, but joining the faculty bowling league 2 or 3 years after I joined the faculty proved to be an incredibly important thing. Namely because on my first 5-man bowling team, the dean of the college and the director of the UW physical plant ran everything on the campus. And all of a sudden, when you get to know people in a personal setting like that, you can accomplish things that you just couldn't do it any other way. So there were some strange things along the road that all conspired to bring me to where this is today. And I'm very grateful for all of those things, for all of you here, for all of the people who helped me along the way and continue to work with me. And I enjoy working with them. And the other Bob I was going to mention was the fact that I seem to be able to cook. That has been a surprising benefit to my career for a long time. It still is. It seems odd, but remember the old expression, an army moves on its stomach. And that seems to be the case with groups interested in resource management as well. But the bottom line is I'm very grateful and very optimistic about the fact that we have a wonderful group of private landowners in the state, a wonderful group of public land managers. I think the state's resources in very good hands into the future. I'm gratified to think that the folks responsible for those resources can probably finally speak up again and come forth with the information that they know and can share with the public. I think we're in a pretty good place, and I thank you all for coming and for everything we've heard for the last few minutes. Thank you all very much.
Slightly different way of saying so many times, like Scott said, is that most major efforts do take a whole village. But to be a successful village, you need to have effective leaders, and I think Scott's a great example of that.